Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Paranormies and the Ahnenerbe Hour. Oh, shit, I fucked that all up. God damn it. Hold on, guys. We gotta do that again. I'm sorry.
It sounded good to me.
Yeah.
Fuck it. We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. Welcome to the Ahnenerbe Hour featuring the Paranormies. I'm Johnny Monoxide. Tonight with us, we have Hazzard, McRee, we have Haidt, we have Greyfield Stray, and we have a very special guest from the podcast on the Right Stuff Radio, rebelyell. We have Musonious Rufus. What's up, dude?
Not much. Thanks for having me on.
I know. Thanks for coming, dude. What's up, guys?
Yeah, thanks for coming, mate.
Yeah. And we're here to talk about MKULTRA.
Yes.
Yup, yup.
Don't everybody sound so excited?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Once we get our shit posting over.
Oh, yeah. Shit posting comes
shit
first.
Your regularly scheduled shit posting begins now.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I remembered this time. We have a Twitter and we have a contact email, guys.
Oh,
Yes,
that's right.
we do.
Shit. Hazzard did his job.
Hazard, what's the Twitter, bro?
It's staring me too. We can be reached at, our Twitter is at _Paranormies. And if you want to send us an email that's, longer than 140 characters, you can get us at paranormiespresent@gmail.com.
That'll be
Right
in the
on.
video description. And Johnny, don't we have a new distribution platform?
We have a new distribution platform. Go ahead and check it out. We are now on SoundCloud. Our channel is The Paranormies Present.
So you can download us and listen on the go.
Yes, you don't have to have just the
Even
YouTube
in the
up.
bathroom.
I'm sorry. What I heard? Hazard, go.
Oh, I was just saying we're still on YouTube as well.
Oh yeah, we're always going to be on YouTube until we get kicked off.
Show us.
Yes. But now you can listen to us in the bathroom without taking your laptop with you or doing that weird thing where you hold the phone sideways.
Yeah, I've never brought my laptop into the bathroom. That's weird.
Who would do that?
That's you filthy fucking casual.
Why would anyone do that?
Oh my god, some crazy shit. Yes. So
It gets
last
hot and heavy,
week,
and action starts almost immediately.
it does. The shit posting starts. It's hot and heavy. It starts almost immediately. Got 120 comments. All right, we got all that out of the way. Cool.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll probably get some more coming up throughout the episode. We always do.
Yeah, but last week we talked about some cool shit. We talked about spy stuff, and that led into us talking about MKUltra, which is super secret spy stuff, and also occult as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we got
It sort of leads into the occult. It's actually linked to the satanic ritual abuse legends too. Later on,
Legends.
legends. But
Legends, yeah.
It seems to start off with.
Look, unlike some things, this actually did happen.
Yeah, well, MKUltra actually did happen, right?
Yep.
And they tried to show all the evidence back in '73, but they left a box of 20,000 documents that was discovered in '77, and I believe it was Ted Kennedy of all people. It's because two of his brothers died from assassination. He was sort of in charge of looking into it, and so those documents are all that we have, proof of what happened. But it's enough. You're like, oh my gosh, if this is the tip of the iceberg.
Well, it was
what else
officially
If your brother's been
halted.
assassinated, you'd probably avoid it, but there you go.
Right. Well, he wanted to know why, and that might be the reason why RFK was probably assassinated. Because if he was president and he had a burning passion to find out what happened to his brother, well, that would be a thorny issue for the intelligence community. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, there's many.
And the reason. Oh, I'm sorry, Johnny. Go ahead.
So there's many reasons why Bobby was assassinated, but that's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of them. But Bobby, of all the assassinations, his sounds the most like a Manchurian candidate, MKUltra special.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is that?
Because Sirhan has never remembered, the assassination, and that's why he's been turned down for parole, 14 times or something like that. He's never been let out because he doesn't show any remorse because he doesn't have any memory of it.
Right.
So,
have you tried hooking him up to a polygraph and asking if he remembers it?
I don't think they've tried that, and I don't think there's
Well,
that.
that'd be kind of fucking telling if, the polygraph shows, what the fuck, he has no memory of this.
Well,
Right.
the polygraph's a good idea, but I think your best bet for repressed memory would be hypnotherapy.
Yeah, hypnotherapy is what needs to happen with him, and he's probably locked in because that's one of the first things MKUltra did with hypnosis was to lock in someone to only where one person can unlock you, hypnotically, because
So-
they started with a courier system. They wanted to be able to send unknowing couriers across the world to another agent who could unlock them and get the message.
Yeah, this is all really great. So I don't mean to cut you off, but I think just real briefly, we should go over a little bit of the history of MKUltra, get our audience a little bit familiar with what this project is, what we're talking about.
Sounds good.
We're diving straight into the deep end.
Everybody, hold on. First of all,
we got to go slowly for some of the other people.
Let's go for it.
Everybody has their tinfoil on?
Yeah.
Mine's currently serving as a
This is full tinfoil episode,
Right.
like 100%.
I never took it off.
Yeah, I don't ever take mine off.
Over here. Their fault.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Adam. You want to tell us a little bit about Project MKUltra?
Yeah, Musonius, sounds like you probably know a little bit about it too, but just as a brief overview, so it's called MKUltra, which kind of sounds, it's a project that I believe the CIA took over. It sounds kind of like gibberish almost, but it started off from Operation Paperclip, which was a program after, like towards the end of World War II and afterward, to recruit former National Socialist Germany like scientists, and basically the CIA and I don't know that the CIA existed then. I think it was the OSS.
After World War II, they were the OSS. It wasn't the CIA until later on.
Yeah, it's something of Secret Services. I should know this.
Oh yeah, Office of Strategic Services, something like that.
Yeah,
Office
that's
of
right.
Strategic Services.
It's Strategic
Bill
Services.
Donovan ran it. Yeah.
So, we basically went to them and said, hey, we can either prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law, and if you've read anything about the Nuremberg trials, that's a bad deal. Or you can come work for us. So it's like, obviously, they're going to come work for us.
It was pretty much a veiled threat of either you're going to come work for us for the rest of your lives, or we're going to turn you over to the Soviets to torture some confessions out to you, and then we're going to fucking hang you.
Yeah,
I would have
so
come.
obviously
I would have
it
come
came
worked in
here,
Burbank,
and
California,
from there,
too.
it evolved into many different projects. Musonius, can you speak on that?
Yeah. The Central Intelligence Agency was created after the war, and the OSS was very James Bond-like. It was about active agents in the field, and but what Truman wanted out of the Central Intelligence Agency was for it to be like a digest he could read every day, because we have over half a dozen like intelligence agencies, in the United States. I mean, there's also the Defense Intelligence Agency and everything else, and there's these satellite guys, and he couldn't keep track with it all because the Cold War began, in 45 in Iran.
So you're saying some of these titles, these jobs, some of them don't even know what they are?
Right. So he just wanted a digest. He did not care about the CIA doing agents in the field, but Wild Bill Donovan did, right? So the CIA has like this dual mandate from the beginning to keep track of to do all the James Bond stuff, and to also centralize intelligence, for the president.
Oh, hold on.
That's why they're called the Central Intelligence Agency, because goddamn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
let me
reason
give
why
a
they're
little
called the
background
Central
music while we're talking about
Intelligence
spies.
Agency is because part of their job is to collate and condense all the information from the other intelligence agencies.
Yeah, that's why they were called that originally. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Right. It was because Truman wanted that. Yeah.
Do they still maintain field operatives and everything like that? Because you never really hear about that these days.
Yeah, they still do. In fact, something scary to think about is they have so many front businesses around the world where they run a front like it's a legitimate business, but they're doing like, American spy stuff behind the scenes that, if Congress wanted to, they could kill off the black budget that we're not allowed to know what's on it. But the CIA network could continue on with, the money from the legitimate businesses. So it's almost sounds like a mafia style
Well, being
operation.
the central
They could-
agency, being the central agency, you could also suggest that they would be working through the other agencies anyway. So essentially, they get the lower ranked ones to do the dirty work for them.
Yeah, the only wall that was erected to them was they were not allowed to operate inside the country, which is exactly what they did for all their research for MKUltra. Now, they did move it to Canada.
I was about to say.
Yeah, because they were getting in hot water. Like 75 is like the dark year of intelligence, because of Watergate and all the assassinations of the 60s. Like they tried to clamp down on them, and so they made sure that they weren't operating inside the United States anymore, or could be found out, by then. So.
Well, how do you explain for all the CIA operating in Hollywood?
Yeah, apparently that started before there was a CIA, because they wanted to get America into the war with the Germans, right? Even though there wasn't the American people.
They? Who would they be?
Yeah, they.
The bankers?
Yeah.
The bankers. Who are the bankers? The bankers want you to get in there. No. Yeah.
Yeah. The North.
Turning the frogs gay. The bankers are turning the frogs gay.
Frogs into Nazis.
The globalists.
The globalists. Dr. David Duke, buy my murky water filter and tell us who the bankers are. Yeah.
But yeah, they were involved early on. I guess in 1940, you see like a string of like philo British movies put out to drum up American support. Because they were fighting since 39. September of 39. So
yeah, you turned up late.
God, fucking Hollywood has been mind control since the inception.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, when Hollywood first started doing
and getting us involved in that war, and apparently the intelligence establishment was too.
Well, you had movies like Baton, like
go on, Johnny.
The movie Baton, which is about the Pacific part of the war, and I don't know when that was made, but I mean that was definitely a propaganda film that I know about. Like they showed integrated divisions in the army when there weren't at the time. There was always somebody in like the lineup who had a name like Schwartz from Brooklyn, just showing that support of the United States, and then the mixing of the black divisions with the white divisions, which that didn't happen until actually after World War II.
Yeah,
right. It was Truman that integrated the army in 48.
Yeah,
like that.
Which is well after World War II. But if you look at all the war movies, all the propaganda movies that they were showing how progressive the United States was. Look at how great our military is, and this is actually during the war they were showing that.
Yeah, and a lot of people went to war propaganda that you wouldn't expect, like Dr. Seuss or Zeus.
Dr. Seuss?
His real name Edmund Theodore or something like that?
Yeah, I don't remember his real name, but he's done some,
something very echoey
cartoons for American
he did a
propaganda.
bunch of fucking cartoons for American propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Disney did. Disney.
The Grinch that stole Berlin.
Yeah.
It was Theodore Seuss Geisel was his real name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Geisel.
Yeah, does it echo?
It has to. It has to.
For the love of God, don't ruin my child. Oh God, I'm looking at this picture. That's
one fish,
schnoz.
two fish, red
Don't
fish,
let Dr.
Jew
Seuss
fish.
teach
Right?
Jewfish.
One fish, two fish, gewelte fish, Jewfish. But come on, man. We already ruined my Shel Silverstein. Like I didn't know Shel Silverstein was. But Walt Disney also did propaganda, but he did propaganda. I don't think it was his propaganda was Jewy, but it was just very pro war.
Yeah, a lot of the American nationalists had to switch in the war, say goodbye to their careers, right?
Yeah.
So Walt Disney did like Education for Death, which the way that a right winger is going to do propaganda for the American war effort is to be more libertarian. It's like, look how big governments, these big governments in Europe are ruining their population. So it's not as Jewy. Of course, Walt Disney's famously Jew-wise, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course.
Sorry, guys, I'm going to kick myself if I don't get this out, but I've got one more. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them Abraham. I'll stop now. Carry on.
That's good. I like that.
But no, that's like the Family Guy episode where they wake him up and there's like, it's like, Mr. Disney, He's like, yeah, they're still Jews? And they're like, yes, nah, put me back under. So,
Are the Jews gone yet?
yeah. Are the Jews gone? That's the one. The Jews gone yet? No, sir. Put me back under. Yeah.
Where does that actually come from? Was he actually openly
No,
outspoken?
I really don't
about
think
that?
he was. I've heard a couple of different stories about this, but he wasn't. He was Jew wise, but he wasn't anti-Semitic.
Wasn't necessarily anti-Semitic. He didn't hate them, but he was wise to their bullshit and didn't put up with it.
Yeah, he didn't employ them. He didn't let them pull shit over on him.
No,
in his
he did employ them.
Oh, did he? I thought he got rid of them.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing.
Evidently not.
Well, regardless of whether he did or not, like they took over his studios. I mean, you have Michael Eisner, and then you have who's the guy that runs them now? Iger.
I don't even know.
I
Iger?
don't know. It's
Iger. I think it's like it's something super. Yeah, it's something super echoey. And Disney's the most.
Hollywood.
Yeah, it's the most. Well, if you want to talk about MKUltra and Disney, yeah, I mean, you can talk about.
So hold on a minute. So just to make sure we're clear for the listener, a lot of the Hollywood pro-American involvement in World War II, a lot of that propaganda was part of like in the MKUltra project, or
No, MK Ultra I think happened later. There was like they really got into hypnosis. Right.
No,
after
MKUltra
the
didn't
war.
officially start until 1953.
Right. I think the hypnosis stuff started as soon as the Cold War began. There might have been some, I don't know, I didn't look into it with, because they did a lot of spy stuff during World War II, like, pretend to be Germans, or the Germans, pretended to be, Americans. There was a lot of spy stuff toward the end of the war. I don't know if the hypnosis started then, but I do know that there was a full-blown, it was crazy. If you look at the documents from MK Ultra, like how much they used hypnosis in the late 40s, and MK Ultra, comes online in the 50s to try to collate and put all this stuff together with drugs and with enhanced interrogation techniques, torture. Right? Let's combine
Torture
them.
and sexual assault.
Yeah,
Sexual assault, druggings. They used LSD a lot.
Oh, they used LSD. It got to be an occupational hazard, right?
It got to the point where they would fuck with one another. If you set your drink down and didn't have your eye on it for like 15, 20 seconds, it was
were
going to
getting
have
dosed,
LSD in
yeah.
it by the time you got back to it.
Right. It was sort of ridiculous. You could see how they got into it. It's like, yeah, the Soviets are going to be using this on us too, so we want to be ready for it, right?
Right, want to be ready for it, and
turned
everybody.
yeah, man.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
a bunch
man.
of frat jokes almost, but it got out of hand.
Right.
A lot of the deaths come from people that were unwittingly given LSD.
I've heard of hazing techniques, but jabbing someone with a heroin needle isn't my first choice.
No, that's not one.
Well, I think
I'll be honest.
they use psychedelics. Now, heroin was involved because there was a prison population of convicted drug offenders. And they said, if you consent to our experiments, we will give you your drug of choice, like heroin
Holy shit.
or coke.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
That's fucked up.
Yes, yeah, but they were voluntary. They had 6 people in Kentucky,
Voluntary.
that were on LSD for 77 days straight.
Well, the longest one was
Yeah,
one
that's
guy
gonna leave you
was
strung
put
out.
on one guy was put on as a mental patient in Kentucky for 174 days straight.
One guy, oh wow, so
Yeah.
What the fuck? Did
I
they
mean,
run
imagine-
fucking LSD?
Imagine if that's the one they have recorded. How many people have gone 100 days straight getting dosed? That'll definitely fuck with your
Timothy Leary
reality.
Didn't do any shit like that. So
What's that?
yeah, I mean Timothy Leary didn't do stuff like that. Doesn't like LSD like make your body ache because you can't get any real good sleep on it?
After a certain amount of time, yeah, you can't. You're not sleeping. It's kind of a weird insomnia, dream within a dream kind of a thing. Not that I would.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I would. Know.
Now you wouldn't know.
Yeah,
I'm just like from what these studies that I've read, the bicycle
some
theory
podcasts.
and like all that stuff, like bicycle day and stuff. I know things, but I don't know from personal experience about 174 days. That's fucking ridiculous. But
That's over half a goddamn year.
yeah. So the LSD was that was like one of their projects. It was called Operation Midnight Climax. They set up. I'm not even kidding. They set up brothels in San Francisco, California, to obtain a selection of men who would be too embarrassed to talk about the events. So like, they were getting these guys who were getting with hookers and dosing them with LSD, and the rooms had one-way mirrors, and like they were filmed, just like and they were fucking with them, like fucking with the lights, or like having different people come in and out of the room, or just being interrogated. The thing is the brothels were set up specifically for military personnel, so it wasn't like they were getting normal people off the street. So these were military guys that were thinking they were going to a regular brothel. And
wasn't that like the one where one of the army marshals during the experimentation like fucking ran out and held up a fucking bar while high out of his mind on LSD?
I haven't heard that one, but that's there were agents that would think they were being pursued by demons, and they would run off and cause a scene.
You guys want to know? You guys want to know what the director of the Office of Security, the head of the Office of Security, the chemist who directed MKUltra? You want to know what his name was?
Gottlieb.
Sidney Gottlieb, yeah.
Every fucking time.
Dr. Sidney
He's famous over
Gottlieb.
here for the poison pen assassination.
Right. Yeah, that's...
I know about the umbrella. What was the poison pen assassination?
Same sort of thing. I forget the details of it, but essentially I think it was a... What, sorry?
Was it ricin again?
I think so. I'm sorry. I'm a bit sketchy. I only know about the...
That is a horrible fucking way to go out.
Yeah, and they have exotic ones like polonium is quite in fashion. You can't be cured from that. But
you can't be from ricin either. But I mean, doesn't polonium basically destroy your body's ability to... It destroys the bone marrow and your body's ability to reproduce white blood cells, right?
Ooh.
Right, it's a bone
it's
seeker.
Radiation.
Yeah.
Right, it's like strontium. It's a bone seeker. So you do that to someone you hate. The ricin, I think they were trying to, pretend that it was a heart attack, assassinate.
No, wait. No, right. That's not ricin then.
Okay, well, what was the ricin then?
Ricin is the one where it prevents your cells from replicating. So your body starts to break down internally, and basically your innards turn into a fucking meat slurry over the course of a couple of weeks.
Oh, really? Okay, I knew polonium took a while. I thought ricin was quicker.
No.
Yeah.
Ricin, basically, the only way to fucking save you from it is if you know you've been poisoned by ricin, and you basically get your fucking stomach pumped, and they fucking swap your goddamn blood out. We're talking they need to drain you of blood and fucking put in a fresh transfusion.
If I may interrupt, I found
massive organ damage.
I found a little bit more on the pen thing. It's actually it was a failed attempt. Nobody actually died. Basically, it was under the Cuban project. Basically, Gottlieb directed the assassination attempts on Fidel Castro.
Yeah.
So a exploding conch shell was considered, and a poisonous fountain pen.
Did they think it was going to be like Lord of the Flies, and he was going to hold it up to his ear or something?
No, he was going to listen for the sound of the beach and was going to blow his head off. He was going to say they could go down to the beach and dig for piss clams, and they'd blow his head off.
Well, while we're on the subject, there's a whole lot of Cuban exiles that were involved in the CIA when it's doing all this dirty stuff. I mean, a couple of the Nixon plumbers were Cuban exiles, and then the Bay of Pigs. And, the CIA was mad at Kennedy for the Bay of Pigs. That's one of the...
he didn't provide air support, right?
Right, he withheld air support because it was a big embarrassment. I think they trained that army in Honduras, and the ships were from New Orleans. They were supposed to take back the islands. So they were always after Castro back in the day, and he's outlived all the attempts on him.
He's outlived most of the agents, too, probably.
Yeah.
At his age?
Is he still alive?
Is he still around?
Yes, he's just very aged and geriatric. His brother is supposedly running things right now, so Raul.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Raul,
So
who is
we
reversed
really
conch shell.
we've been all over the place with MKUltra here. So I mean, it seems like we kind of spanned a really broad timeline right now. I mean, there was like hypnosis projects early on, and then they switched to using LSD and all kinds of assassination.
Well, pretty much any time they went to a new stage in the project, they were also using all of the preceding stages. Like they were working with hypnosis and coded agents, etc., sleepers. But then they realized that after the discovery of LSD, holy cow, this makes people incredibly susceptible and receptive.
Right.
Right.
They also did a
Johnny,
thing with barbiturate 4, where they'd basically have the patient lie down, and they'd have one intravenous putting barbiturate into it, and the other one putting amphetamines. So you put the barbiturates in to get them in sort of a sleepy state, and then you would release the amphetamines, so that their body was so fucked up. When you sorry, pardon my language. When you when you question them, they generally give it. It works in the same way, sort of, I suppose, that a sodium pentothal would.
Yeah, they
Wow.
you lull them back and forth until the point where they can't even think long enough to lie. Jesus, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I think sodium pentothal, which has a new name now, and then sodium amytal were both barbiturates they used to get a quote-unquote truth serum. They were interested in, like, getting intelligence out of interrogation and then hardening their own agents against interrogation. So they were interested in hypnosis and the drugs, which they call that narcoanalysis, when you are putting someone in a drug state and, you know, trying to get them to betray themselves or betray the truth, you know. And so, you know, these are all narco-analytic drugs, you know, what Greyfield's talking about. And, you know, and that sounds very bad for you, by the way, the amphetamines.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, that's like amphetamines classed with barbiturates. That sounds like a quick way to blow somebody's heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So earlier, Johnny, you mentioned Hollywood, and in the context of hypnosis, and I think there's a lot to be said in terms of other hypnosis techniques for, like, abuse and like trauma-based mind control. Right? Is that right?
Right. That's trauma-based mind control is a big part of what modern day MKUltra has turned into. You've got the project, the Monarch Project.
Okay.
You guys heard of that at all? Anybody?
Yeah,
No,
I've heard of it. Tell me more
No, I
about it.
haven't.
The Monarch Project is pretty much the it's you got Britney Spears, you've got Miley Cyrus, you've got all these girls who are big name stars who have done a bunch of stuff through. A lot of them started off in Disney, and hold on a second, I just lost the tab. But a lot of them started off in Disney, and Disney has a lot to do with the MKUltra mind control stuff. And I have to pause this and look for my thing. I lost a tab. So
That's all right.
somebody make a note so I
I'll
can
be
edit this.
out. Yeah.
I need to look this shit up.
I mean, Miley Cyrus. I mean, anybody should be familiar. I mean, when the
hang on, go ahead
what
and
point did
go.
you go from Hannah Montana to riding wrecking balls around naked?
And twerking on men who are in nude suits. Is that the hypnosis technique? Does the twerking and gyrations of her ass serve to hypnotize people? Is that what's going on?
I think that's to use on like non-human primates. You know, like you find in Detroit, Chicago.
Right.
Well, I was saying to Adam earlier that I believe that music in itself is essentially a form of emotional hypnosis. If you consider things like earworms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, hypnosis is actually denied by, like, a large segment of, like, modern day psychologists. Like, they act like, well, you're just suggestible and you do what you want to do. You know, the person tells you something and you're like, yeah, I want to do that, and you do it. But so they seem to be like hypnosis deniers. But
If it really works, would they want everybody to know that this stuff is possible? No.
Yeah,
Right. Of course not. That's the whole point of making it crazy conspiracy theories.
Multiple personality disorder, right?
Johnny, did you find it?
I did not find it. And I just threw something. I just threw my mouse on the floor. Hang on.
Leave it in.
Yeah, Musonius, this is good stuff, but
Paranormies charm.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna edit that.
wait,
but-
I mean,
No,
But,
leave it.
So I lost all my tabs I had open on the fucking Monarch mind control thing.
That's okay.
Control H, history.
Yeah, I know.
So
Clearly the government
anyway,
did this.
so you said that multiple personalities is denied?
Yeah, they're very skeptical about it nowadays. But I think all this started in the 1920s with a man that was claimed that he could fix multiple personality disorder, that he could unite all these different personalities, right? And that's where the abuse comes into MK Ultra. The idea is that you try to split someone's ego, using abuse. Right, and that's how it later ties into the satanic ritual abuse scandals.
Who is the guy who wrote the book, How to Create an Illuminati Mind Control Slave?
I don't know who wrote that, but
there's a book. Hold on, there's a book, How to Create, and it's literally it's pretty much word for word what you just said. It's like ritualistic abuse, and the movie The Butterfly Effect. It shows. Step for step, I'm not even kidding, step for step how to do this. You've got ritualistic abuse, you've got the girl and the boy who are subjected to the the disgusting, I don't know if it was her stepdad or her dad or whatever, but that was like sexually abusing her and the Ashton Kutcher character when he was younger. And then it's got the different it's got a bunch of different crazy endings, but it's basically step for step how to create a mind control slave. It's mostly through repetitive abuse and sexual abuse.
Sounds like an L. Ron Hubbard book.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that also solves the mystery of because there's a lot of reports of these abused children actually becoming willing slaves, right? Instead of simply being garroted, and dumped. They actually become willing slaves for the the
I'm
rest
sorry,
of their
it's
lives.
Fritz Springmeier's book.
So, yeah.
The who?
It's Fritz Springmeier, and the book is called The Illuminati Formula Used to Create an Undetectable Total Mind-Controlled Slave.
Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but
No, that's a long version of it, but it's how to create how to create a mind control slave, basically. But Fritz Springmeier
the idea
was somebody who was affiliated with the Monarch program, and he came out and wrote this book about it.
Yeah, I think the crown jewel of the MK Ultra program was to create Manchurian style assassins, Manchurian candidate style assassins.
What exactly is the Manchurian candidate?
Okay,
I haven't ever seen it.
Yeah, there's a Frank Sinatra movie, because back in the early 50s, we were in Korea, right? We were fighting in Korea. And the North Koreans were actually pretty good at getting a lot of guys to turn, a lot of prisoners, our prisoners, to turn in their POW camps, right? And so brainwashing, that's where the term brainwashing comes from. It got into, the popular parlance. And the Manchurian Candidate is a Frank Sinatra movie where one of these guys is trained to be a sleeper assassin, and even he doesn't know it. Right? So the phenomena is named after the Manchurian Candidate movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. In the movie, I think he plays solitaire. He has like this desire to play solitaire, and when he comes across a certain card, he gets triggered. Right. Now, Sirhan said that all he can remember from the assassination is there was a girl in a polka dot dress that pinched him on the shoulder and told him, Bobby Kennedy.
Huh.
Right.
dude.
Right. So the idea is that he went into this altered state of mind mechanically, like a zombie, carried through with the assassination. He had, the gun was placed in his pocket. I think it was like an 8-shot 22 or something. It had a lot of rounds, but it was a revolver.
Oh, wow.
So sort of idiot-proof. And he just unloads into Bobby, and then he's been in prison ever since and can't remember it.
See, this is the thing with your Frank Sinatra, is even in the 50s, being triggered is something cool.
Yeah.
Right? I found that thing on Monarch Mind Control Programming.
Oh, she is a national treasure.
Yeah.
Okay, she is the greatest product Britain has ever produced.
Who's that?
Yeah, and there's a young Angela in the movie. So.
Angela Lansbury, never heard of her?
Oh, Angela
Edmund
Lansbury.
Broomstick?
Yes, she's the gem of Britain.
Murder, She Wrote.
Murder, She Wrote. No, I love Murder, She Wrote, dude. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I found the thing on the Monarch Mind Control Programming thing that I was looking for earlier.
Right.
It disappeared into the nether regions of the internet, and I found it. But yeah, the Monarch programming is a mind control technique comprising elements of satanic ritual abuse and multiple personality disorder. because if you ever hear any of these interviews with people who are supposedly come out and talked about being under the mind control, that they were usually had some sort of schizophrenia where they had several different personalities that they used during the whole deal. And it actually comes from an ancient book. All this mind control stuff. It's from the Egyptian Book of the Dead from like 5,000 years ago.
What?
Yeah, talks about the uses of torture.
Is you saying that the magic books of our ancestors and the ones that came before us hold some truths that are still applicable?
We hold these truths to be self-evident. Yeah. No.
Wait a
Is
minute.
Keck involved?
It's Keck involved, yes.
So what you're telling us is that the Monarch Project involved the Egyptians? So basically we was Kangs.
Well, spies was Kangs.
If you want, if you're gonna, be grateful for the assassinations of the 60s, thank a Negro.
Jesus Christ, Hazzard. But
the
what
Monarch, it's more speculative, right? The Monarch Project is much more speculative than
it is. It's much because the people who've come out about it have been, automatically labeled conspiracy theorists. You've got Kathy O'Brien and what's her name? Bryce. Shoot, I can't remember her name. But you have Kathy O'Brien, who's written books and done movies on it, documentaries. Talking about how she was a CIA mind control sex slave from the time she was a teenager. And
the missing link between that, between like the satanic ritual abuse scandals that started in the 70s, right, and peaked in the 1980s,
right,
and the old MK Ultra, hypno, Manchurian candidates. The link is ritual abuse, causing split personalities, right. So that's the idea of the link between the two phenomena. But the MK Ultra by itself, it's mostly about spycraft and assassins, right? It's as for, I don't know much about their abuse techniques, but they did employ them, and drugs and hypnosis, to try to create these altered states that they could trigger, and a person would act like a robot and just go through with it, without their will getting in the way. So.
Interesting.
I was just looking into Kathy O'Brien, actually, because this is obviously a new name to me. And a lot of what she says, I could buy, but at the same time, she did also claim that George Bush, I think senior, activated a hologram to simulate lizard-like transformation. So, 50-50 if I'm honest.
Is that what they did to Jeb's wife?
It's possible. They put her in the they
broke halfway.
She was in the dryer for too long. We know, like, back to Project Monarch, like modern day Project Monarch, you've got things going on like the Beta Sex Kitten Project.
That sounds hot,
right?
Sex kittens that involve cat girls.
It does not involve cat, unless you consider Katy Perry a cat girl.
Put ears and a tail on her and we'll talk.
Right. So you've got the thing is that the Beta Sex Kitten is like you've got your Katy Perrys, you've got your Miley Cyrus, you've got other girls in Hollywood. You've got.
I was about to say not T Swift.
No, like Jessica Alba, Jamie Alexander, Gillian Anderson, Pamela Anderson, Jennifer Aniston. You've got all these girls, and they're purposely put in. And now this is just a conspiracy theory. We're all wearing tinfoil tonight. So they're always wearing animal print, leopard print, cat print stuff. So there's your sex kitten. They're always these hot chicks that are wearing cat stuff. It's something to do with the programming. So they're wearing leopard print. They're wearing tiger stripes. They're wearing Jesus Christ, these girls are hot. You've even got the guys. Now hold on a second. You've got occult symbolism in the guys. You've got Justin Bieber. You've got Sacha Baron Cohen, Russell Brand, Kevin Hart, Kanye West, Jaden Smith. All these guys wearing they're all these sex symbols, wearing this leopard print, tiger stripes. Chris Brown, CeeLo Green, Michael Jackson. You've got Rod Stewart, Bruno Mars, all these guys that have been affiliated with Hollywood and being sex symbols are almost always shown in their advertisements wearing some sort of animal print because the sex
guys,
cat what.
If I see
The only
Katy
part about
Perry,
that worried me was that you included Russell Brand in that fucking list.
Well, he was on the list. I'm sorry, I was reading it. Yeah. But you've got.
Russell, I am the second coming Brand. Ugh.
Hold up. So if I see Katy Perry in leopard print and I get an erection, does that mean that my penis is a double agent under MKUltra control?
Right. It's not responsible for its actions.
Right.
Well,
But you've got all kinds of other things that go along with that. You've got these same other triggers that are part of their things. The butterflies. There's always butterflies. There's always, like I said, there's always animal prints. There's all these things like, okay, Marilyn Monroe.
If we're talking advertising, one of the things I've been told is if you take a look in advertising, you'll always start to see the same fluctuations of light patterns and the same sorts of weird sound frequencies, some sorts of sound effects that happen towards the beginning and end of advertisement. That's all part of the same fucking suite, isn't it?
Yeah. The allegation is that a lot of what they've learned, they've been progressing and they're using it on us. The patterns you're describing. Well, that was even in that. Who was it? Darren Brown. Did you guys watch that Assassin episode that I posted?
Yes.
No.
He just uses straight up hypnosis to get a Manchurian style candidate, right? And they went to a lot of work, but he had the law of large numbers, on his side, right? So he hypnotized a lot of people, and he found two guys that were the most, suggestible, right? And he actually, got one to lie in a bath of ice water. I mean, it was like a couple of degrees above freezing, and he's acting like it's a warm bath. To convince the audience that, there's something else going on here. He's not simply doing what I'm telling him to do, right?
Right.
He actually cannot experience this, because of the hypnosis. Well, and then they train him to be a Manchurian candidate. And it's all staged, but he doesn't know it's staged. So he really takes a shot at, was it Fry? Some British celebrity, right, for the episode. It's... I highly recommend it. Darren Brown, Darren with 2 E's, Assassin is the name of the episode. You can find it on YouTube.
No, you posted it before. Yeah.
They use this stuff not only for sinister stuff, but to sell stuff as well.
It's definitely in their advertising.
Ever watched Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah.
You know that the strange flickering light patterns that they would, and the strange the tonal frequencies they'd play right before every commercial break. It was. I've heard it's the results of a project called Project Orion.
It was like strange sounds.
Yeah. Sounds. Not those strange sounds.
I'm just kidding. Hey, we gotta take a break. I'm pretty sure that somebody has to pee besides me.
So when we come back, we'll be getting into a little bit of Project Orion and lots of other fun stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool.
Let's take a quick break.
I would offer you
And we're back, everybody. What's happening? I'm still Johnny Monoxide. We're still the Paranormies. We still got Adam Haidt, Hazzard, McRee, Greyfield, Stray, and Mr. Musonious Rufus. Everybody back with me?
Yeah, we are.
Yay.
It's incredibly fitting that, we started talking about Project Orion, and then we went for, what was essentially a commercial break. Like I said, it was notable in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the various fluctuations and frequencies of light as well as various frequencies of sound. I mean, everybody remembers that, they had the iconic doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, but there were some other strange sounds that went along with it that you'd notice sometimes. And the lights always flickered in crazy patterns, everything. Essentially, it was a derivative of a project called Project Orion. Now, I've heard that if you look up Project Orion like you would think, Orion, what you will find is a feasibility study into the use of nuclear detonations for propulsion of spacecraft, which isn't actually as crazy as it sounds if you're talking about deep space. But, if you look up, if you just hear Project Orion, you'll look it up like that because, it's spelled like constellation. Evidently, this one is spelled O''Ryan. It's really hard to find a lot of information about it, like so much of this stuff is, because, they don't want you to find out about stuff like this, because, it's pretty offensive to find out that, people have been trying to use derivatives of mind control techniques on you. But they put this stuff into various game shows, were very popular to insert this stuff into because, the upbeat atmosphere of a game show, you've already got a bunch of different lights, some weird sound effects, everything. You're not going to notice a couple of extra ones.
Are you guys familiar at all with binaural beats?
Oh, yeah.
It's something similar to that.
Oh, yeah.
No, tell us about it.
But
Okay,
real quick
let's finish this up.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Basically, the aim of the stuff that, I mean, it's still kind of sinister, but it's fairly innocuous compared to the rest of this stuff. It was just designed to make people a little bit more susceptible to whatever they were selling in advertisements. Mm-hmm. And, they did that at every commercial break, and then they showed you a bunch of stuff they wanted you to buy.
That's really fascinating. I would love to study that, because it seems like it wouldn't be, too difficult or complicated to study, but also would probably just get shut down.
Yeah, and I mean, they weren't aiming for, full-on mind control, just a bit of susceptibility. I mean, if you can increase the amount of people who are willing to buy a product by even 3 or 4, 5%, that's
a lot
still
of money.
quite a bit of profit.
Oh, that's a good profit margin, Zane.
Well, I think your brain goes into a certain wave pattern, and I think that might be where the beta and the beta sex kittens that you were talking about, I think that it refers to beta waves, doesn't it? And you're supposed to be more suggestible.
Look, just please tell me that with all this sex kitten stuff, my attraction to cat girls isn't a Jewish plot. I cannot take that. I cannot take that.
This.
Yeah.
You might have to.
Well, it's those types of waves that trigger the brain to communicate with your body in certain ways. So, as I was... Yeah, I know. I was trying so hard to circle around there. But yeah, that's basically how binaurals work. They essentially stimulate parts of your brain. So who's to say that advertisers aren't using that to their advantage anyway?
Right. Oh, if you're telling me that advertisers don't use mind control, then you tell me how I haven't eaten Taco Bell in probably 8 years, but every time a Taco Bell commercial comes on, my mouth waters.
Right.
Like,
You've been conditioned, Goy.
Yeah, exactly.
Your mouth waters and your butthole clenches.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, no.
Diablo sauce.
No.
But, okay, somebody had something. Gray, you had something you wanted to add?
Oh, no, I was just, it was just adding on to what Hazzard was saying about sounds being used to essentially control actions and thoughts.
Do you have any experience with binaural beats?
I do, yes. I actually use them myself. I suffer from sleep issues, so I use them to help myself relax and settle into a good night's sleep. Doesn't always work, but I do stand by them to an extent because they seem to affect me better than medication.
I've heard that. I've
But
heard that helps.
just thinking,
Yeah.
I've said before that music in itself is a type of mind control. In fact, it's clinically proven. Clinically proven? Sorry, scientifically proven. I'm advertising now. Clinically proven. It's like white in your teeth. No, it's scientifically proven that people remember things better when it's presented to them in song form.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you give someone a
absolutely.
little tune, they will remember information.
That's how my dad taught me our phone number when I was like, I still remember my dad's phone number from like decades ago now.
Exactly.
Because it has a jingle, yeah. That's how I remember like my social security number, everything.
Exactly. I mean, it's the fact.
I thought you were
that
going to say some really horrible reason why
brain
like,
away.
he hit you
The
every
fact
time or something.
that you suggest that game shows and stuff like that are using them just sort of willing. I could believe that completely.
Anything
That would be a really excellent platform to experiment with.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting that it's widespread enough to where they try to use it to sell things, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of hypnotic research that's official. You know, like you go and study it as a psychologist. It's
Well,
So,
I think it's kind of the way they just don't want any. It gives me the sense that they just don't want anybody to ever talk about it in case like someone finds something out, because that really is the most effective way to bury something, is to just ignore it. I mean,
look at gender dysphoria. The official party line is the fact that no, this is a real thing. They're born with the opposite gender's brain, and they need to mutilate their genitalia. No, just ignore the fact that we had these successful trials in the treatment of gender dysphoria with medication that worked absolutely flawlessly. Ignore those. Those didn't happen, and you're a bigot if you ask about them.
All it really needs is a catchy jingle.
yeah.
I agree.
Well, yeah, you're right about psychologists basically being arms of the powers that be, because they've been changing the manual on these disorders. So a lot of the old disorders that are popularly recognized, like he's a sociopath. Well, that's not an official thing anymore. But
of course not, because you could label every person of a certain group sociopaths.
Yeah, sociopath.
On their behavior.
Right?
Apparently, the old way was sociopath was a non-predatory, and psychopath was supposed to be predatory. Sociopath just simply didn't care and had the inability to feel warm empathy, but he wasn't predatory. But anyway, but they're inventing disorders for what we have. We probably have antisocial personality disorder. Or
we have so many disorders there's 100 and 120 disorders on this in this podcast right now.
Everybody's got 2 or 3 of them.
Everybody's got at least 2 or 3 of them, right?
The alt-right, we all probably have alt-right personality disorder.
autism.
Yeah, we're fixed. Yeah.
So on the subject
Anti-autism
of
is anti-white.
Yeah.
MKUltra subjects, there's one in particular that sticks out to me. Guy by the name of Ted Kaczynski. A lot of people probably have heard that name. He's commonly known as the Unabomber.
The Unabomber.
A crazy guy in the woods who mailed bombs to universities and airports and stuff. But what a lot of people don't know is that he was actually, he and some other undergrad and grad students at Harvard were experimented on as part of the MKUltra project under Henry Murray, who was the lead researcher at the Harvard experiments. So a little bit of background about Ted Kaczynski. He was an incredibly bright man. He had an IQ tested when he was a child of 167, I believe, which is absolutely off the chart. That's over 4 standard deviations above average. So
4.5.
167 at how old?
Let me see here.
It's ridiculous.
It was in 5th grade, which is
12.
What? He's like 10 years old?
11. 5th grade, 11,
Yeah,
10, 11,
11 years old.
10, 11 years old, yeah. Wow.
And before anybody gets on to us, we know that, yes, childhood IQ can vary. But the thing is, all accounts point to Ted Kaczynski being absolutely brilliant. He was a mathematics professor.
Yeah.
So his actual adult IQ may have been, slightly lower as, the outcome from childhood IQ.
Oh, right, yeah. His child IQ is 167, so his grown-up IQ is clearly 92.
No, he was at least easily 3, if not 4 standard deviation.
Yeah, no, he was easily 157 to 160. His actual IQ.
I'm just saying that so we don't get any snide comments of, oh, you're using childhood IQ tests.
If those autistes are listening, good,
right?
Good,
no problem. So.
Yeah. So anyway, so he's a really bright dude. He's so smart. You could, like, the average person, like me or whoever, could not even fathom what his thoughts are like. So, anyway, he was like, he was super smart, so he skipped a grade, I think is what happened. And he got bullied a lot. And from there, he started to have a lot of, I don't know, what's the word, like, a lot of social problems. He became kind of distant and cold. He also had some problems when he was young. Like he had hives and was placed in isolation in a hospital, and that contributed a lot to this sort of like coldness he had. But anyway, so fast forward a little bit. Ted Kaczynski was a student at Harvard, and he was placed in some experiments with, I believe, 22 other students. And what happened was the students they were supposed to write essays like about their life and about their goals and their the aspirations, really deeply personal essay. And then they would be strapped to a chair in like an interrogation room, and basically just dressed down. I mean, someone would make really like personal attacks based on the essay, basically just ripping apart the people emotionally, and very personal attacks. And like they had like bright lights going on, so you've got a lot of physical discomfort, and also someone is abusing you psychologically. And all this was then filmed, and the students were forced to watch themselves basically be abused again.
Oh, wow.
Which is absolutely, indefensible. Like, this kind of abuse it's totally unwarranted. Like, there's no reason that this should be done to anybody.
And
so
we should note that this happened between 59 to 1962, so this was definitely during peak MKUltra experimentation years.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely. That's a good
and
point.
And also the name Henry Murray. Anybody care to hazard a guess as to what sort of person this was?
Murray?
Oh gosh,
oof. A really nice man.
I'm gonna say
stereotypical, long nose, beady eyes, sweaty,
eternal Anglo.
With the hunchback.
Yeah, Anglo.
The eternal Anglo.
The eternal Anglo.
Oh,
you look white to me.
Stereotypical long nose, bad teeth.
So they did this. So you take this incredibly bright guy, you psychologically abuse the shit out of him, and he ends up going into the woods and mailing bombs around in order to extort the press, specifically New York Times and Washington Post, into publishing his manifesto. It was about a 35,000-word essay he wrote. It was titled "An Industrial Society and Its Future." It's kind of a long one, about 35,000 words. And I think everybody should read it. It's a really fascinating work where he, it's extremely articulate, and he examines and analyzes the way that society has changed after industrialization, because it was a very rapid change. There's in terms of the scale of evolution, there was almost no time to adjust or adapt to the new social structures and demands that it puts on people. And humans are very adaptable, but they also have limits. And he also, which doesn't get talked about a lot, and I think is the more fascinating part, is he has this absolutely scathing and almost surgical exposure of the leftist mentality and the leftist sort of emotional state. And it's not just in a sense of like specific leftist policies, but just the type of person that a liberal, that a leftist is, the psychological profile of them that is so accurate and so just like razor sharp. It's just absolutely brutal to read it. Mostly because of how well he has pegged them down. And you'll notice if you read about his manifesto and stuff, about, from papers like, or, newspapers like The Atlantic or the New York Times or these places, they don't seem to want to mention that part of it, which is a pretty big part. It's the first part of the manifesto itself. Which kind of leads me to believe that it's very accurate, or there's, something, they don't want people to know about it.
Well, yeah, when they try to hide things. Yeah,
they. Well, and I think this is just a really fascinating case to see, a specific person who was affected by MKUltra who happened to be, like these
not
secret...
just the typical dumb pawn.
Yeah, this guy was extremely bright, and he went on to like harm a lot of people. Regardless of whether you agree with his politics. I mean, he was blowing people up. He because of the CIA's action,
he killed
I think
quite a few people.
A lot of the reason that he went on and did these things was because of the abuse he suffered in the MKUltra project. And I'm not trying to, say he didn't do nothing or anything like that, but people are affected indirectly, but also in very serious ways by projects that the Central Intelligence Agency and the military have undertaken. And so just for the listener, like the stuff isn't just some weirdos in their basement using government money doing dumb shit and pranking each other by giving each other LSD. No, like this has serious
this is full
implications.
Yeah, this is full on government funded.
You take your average Joe and you break him mentally, and you leave him a wreck. You might end up with a couple of people shot. You take somebody that's this bright and already emotionally distant, and you break him, and you end up with 17 years of mail bombings before he was finally caught. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that there were not hundreds, if not thousands of people killed is because he was actively avoiding killing people.
Yeah, he didn't want to. He extorted the New York Times and the Washington Post were the only two newspapers that eventually published it. But what he did was he was bombing some places, and then he started writing to police and federal agents and basically saying, look, I'm going to keep doing this unless you publish my manifesto. If you publish my works, then I'll stop. And it's kind of a funny story. Penthouse was the first magazine that agreed to publish it. And he found that out, and then he wrote to them and he said, okay, Penthouse doesn't meet my standards. If you publish it in Penthouse, I reserve the right to kill one more person, and then I promise I'll stop.
He's like, well, I guess it's all right. People are going to see it, but yeah, going to kill another.
The thing with Penthouse publishing a manifesto, could you imagine the extreme irony if they published Elliot Rodgers?
That face when nobody here knows Caligula.
I think he was just a beta.
Well, there is a Hollywood connection with him, right?
Who, with Elliot Rodgers?
Yeah. Yeah, his father was in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he was a son of privilege. So.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. If you want to talk about Hollywood, again, talk about Hollywood and MKUltra, I mean, you can get back to... you can go way back. I mean, it's not just Hollywood; it's also the music industry. MKUltra's got roots in the hippie movement.
In the music industry.
What's that?
I wonder what kind of people are in the music industry.
Probably Anglos.
Yeah, eternal Anglos. I mean, MKUltra started.
Princes.
It started out at Cornell in the 50s. They set up shop at Cornell University. And there was a head of the MKUltra operations at Cornell was Albert Baez. I don't know if you've ever heard of somebody named Joan Baez.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
That was her father. He was the head of MKUltra operations at Cornell. And
apparently,
Joan Baez was
over 80
probably
universities were involved at some point. In
yeah,
this program
you know,
for
like
research.
Stanford University in California is the West Coast branch of the CIA university. You've got people in the news, people like what's his face from CNN, the dude that everybody loves, not Shepard Smith, that's Fox.
Oh, are you talking about Anderson Cooper?
Anderson Cooper. And during his career at Stanford University was a CIA intern the entire time he was in college.
He's also the heir to the Vanderbilt fortune.
He's a Vanderbilt. That is true. Yep.
Yeah.
So back to the late 1950s in Cornell University. You've got Joan Baez's dad. You've got Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary. He wrote the song "Puff the Magic Dragon." You know.
What the hell?
Yeah, and there was a place in Southern California called Laurel Canyon in the Hollywood Hills. That is where the CIA and MKUltra set up shop, and they basically invented the entire folk rock 1960s hippie movement in Laurel Canyon, California. You've got Joan Baez, you've got Peter, Paul, and Mary. You've got Jim Morrison, whose dad was Admiral George Stephen Morrison.
Hold up, are you telling me that Jews were behind the hippies?
Yes.
Wait,
No wonder I hate you
You've
so
got
much.
the head in the head of Laurel Canyon was a man named Frank Zappa. If you guys have ever heard of him.
Yeah.
Well, you know
Frank
what's interesting,
Zappa.
now that you're talking about this, it's like folk music back in the 60s. I bet there's a lot of runaways. A lot of kids have run away to become part of this new age movement in California. And that gives you access to a population that you might find useful.
Exactly. You've got young kids who'll do anything just to be noticed.
Miss if they disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's gonna be
they'll
an
do
identity
anything.
crisis there, though, because the hippie movement later led to glam rock, and glam rock later led to goth.
Right, and if it wasn't for
So,
that, we
yeah.
wouldn't have Greyfield on our show. Yay!
Basically, I owe everything to MKUltra. Shit.
You owe everything to Frank Zappa and MKUltra. Well, Frank Zappa's dad, Francis Zappa, was some sort of a I don't want to say a colonel at Edwards Air Force Base. And so if you'll notice that a lot of these people who started off with this movement, this hippie movement in Southern California, a lot of their parents and relatives were high-level military operatives. Interesting.
Wow.
Right? You've got Frank Zappa's wife, Gail Zappa, who was known formerly as Adelaide Sloatman. Gail hails from a long line of career naval officers, including her father, who spent his life working on classified nuclear weapons for the United States Navy. Gail had actually worked for
connection
the...
again?
What?
This is like the third episode we've had nuke connections.
Oh, yeah. Well, you don't think that spies and MKUltra and nukes like don't even go... Yeah, no. Okay, so...
Basically, John, could you stop dropping the nuke bombs on us?
Right? So, Gail herself grew up with a certain Jim Morrison. And it's claimed that as children, Gail hit Jim Morrison over the head with a hammer. It's a very funny story. But anyways, the same Jim Morrison attended the same Alexandria, Virginia high school as two other Laurel Canyon luminaires, such as John Phillips and Cass Elliott. Cass Elliott... anybody know that name?
No.
Yeah.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah. Musonius?
Yeah, is that Mama Cass?
That's Mama Cass.
Who's Mama Cass?
She choked to death on a ham sandwich, didn't she?
Yeah. You're talking about tie-ins with David Van Cortlandt Crosby of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You've got... These people are related to Supreme Court justices, Revolutionary and Civil War generals, signers of the Declaration of Independence, and members of the Continental Congress. That's actually just David Crosby. David Crosby is related to Stephen Van Rensselaer III, who was the Grand Master of all Masons for New York for quite a long period of time. That's David Crosby of Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Because you talked about Jim Morrison attending that high school.
Mm-hmm.
Or or Alexandria, Virginia, excuse me.
Alexandria, Virginia.
A lot of the Pentagon, that's where they live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people that work at the Pentagon.
Yeah. You've got Stephen Stills from Stills, Crosby, and I mean, these same people. It's all all these hippie movement singers and movers and shakers in the movement are all tied into government agencies. Interesting.
I think we've gotten a bit off track. Well, more than a bit off track.
Well, it goes everywhere.
No, it all goes together. I mean, you got Graham Parsons.
Not off track, but you can see that the traceries and the tangents just keep on going. Like, there is a lot of things that all tie back into all of this.
Mm-hmm.
All I've learned is that the acoustic guitar is the root of all evil.
Well, I think,
shut your mouth.
Certain other things are the root of all evil, but
Yes.
The acoustic.
The acoustic guitar. Well, no, I mean, even it's even been said that the Beatles and Beatlemania. Hold on, guys. It's
$10 million in 1960 money down the drain because of a taxi.
It's been said that the CIA created Beatlemania.
Driven by an aeroplane.
Whoa, guys! Johnny's trying to get in.
All right.
I'm sorry. Did I interrupt with an actual point of order? Sorry.
Oh, the taxi that ran over Acoustic Kitty was evidently driven by a kebab immigrant.
Oh, that's right. It was. Of course, it was a kebab immigrant. Speaking of acoustic guitars. So those people in charge of MKUltra realized they could plant a subject into the music business and control them. Well, if they could control a big name group like, say, the Beatles, then they could control music in general. Well, every album the Beatles released prior to their appearance on Ed Sullivan was an acoustic record. In fact, the hot single at the time was I Want to Hold Your Hand, which was done on acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, their next album, Revolver, was different. As Wikipedia puts it, many of the tracks on Revolver feature an electric guitar rock sound that contrasts with their previous LP, the folk rock-inspired Rubber Soul. So the Beatles were originally acoustic. So I don't think it's the acoustic guitar that's evil, Gray.
That's fair enough. I was going to say, you can say the same thing about the Kinks as well.
Right. Well, and then with the Beatles, you got to remember that the Beatlemania was literally created, according to some people, and some people on this podcast included, by the CIA in an attempt to make the Beatles accessible to America. Like busloads of schoolgirls were taken to the airport from Brooklyn and told to scream and just carry on, even though they had no idea who these people were. Like all the crazy Beatlemania pictures and videos and whatever were literally people who had no idea what they were screaming for, which is why they're screaming with such abandon.
There must be something.
Sorry?
Other people saw that they were screaming about it, so there must be something worth screaming about.
Right. It's that whole like monkey see, monkey do. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Beatlemania really only exists for America.
Right.
The Beatles over here, at least prior to... I don't think they actually really got that popular until Revolver came out over here.
Mm-hmm.
So they were considered a bit of a subpar band at the time. But obviously when the American thing happened, the hype began. And
then Britain was like behind talking about, well, why are the colonies so far ahead of us? So then they were like, we have to be, these are our favorite band too. And they're our band. Even though nobody liked them. Like, no, Brits don't like the Beatles. The Beatles are not a huge thing.
I can't stand the Beatles, personally.
Yeah.
I can't stand the Beatles either. I've never gotten the appeal.
But the Brits were the Beatles were the first.
They were fun songs, but I mean, they're just a band.
And according to certain people, they're not even the original Beatles.
What?
Oh my God!
I've never heard this.
With the Paul is dead.
Paul is dead. Yeah, you know Paul is dead. Yeah.
Jim Fetzer will go on and on about.
Hold up. What is this? I've never heard about this.
Oh my god.
According to one of the witnesses of the claim that Paul is dead, he said, I don't know why Paul McCartney and Brian Epstein were killed, but John Lennon's August 12th press conference in Chicago, in which he launched his criticisms of U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, may be part of the reason. So apparently, Paul was driving to Ringo's house and somehow got to an accident, and they replaced him.
Okay, so James Fetzer is this guy who has done a lot of good research into the JFK assassination. He edited a book.
Wait, is that the clocks right once a day guy you were telling us about?
Well, yeah. Well, he's a broken clock is right twice a day. So James, like he wrote this book, or he edited a book, Murder in Dealey Plaza, I believe it was. And so this guy, he's done a lot of good research on some topics. But the problem is James Fetzer believes literally any conspiracy theory whatsoever. Like anything you bring up, like that sounds like, was made up, or, doubts an official story of something, he will just jump right on it. And he did an interview with Red Ice that...
You just fucked up getting Jim Fetzer on the show.
Oh, that's
He'll
true.
still come on. We'll just have to start a rumor that the Jews don't want him to come on.
Oh, shit. Should I finish this story? Should we
Yeah,
cut
Might
this?
as well now. I mean, you already fucked it up, so...
Go for it.
We can kind of... Okay, anyway. He advocates this narrative that Paul McCartney got in an argument with John Lennon and the others at some point. And it was kind of like in the midway in the Beatles' career. And he said that apparently Paul, like, he left in a huff, and he was hitchhiking he got picked up by this woman who, couldn't believe that Paul McCartney was hitchhiking, and she got to pick him up and all this stuff. And she was gushing over him while driving. They got into an accident, and he died. When they found out, they realized that, the Beatles couldn't quit, so they just got a double. A fake Paul, who was taller and has different dental records and is left-handed and all this stuff. And apparently...
You don't believe that?
All the albums after that are different. They don't have Paul McCartney's like wonderful songwriting on them, and but it's just amazing that apparently
also the same period of time that the Beatles got really heavy into drugs.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it was a couple of years beforehand, but yeah.
Well, I certainly believe that Paul McCartney has lived too long. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Definitely Ringo.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Leave Ringo alone. He's a top bloke.
Yeah.
That's so funny, is all the Brits love Ringo, and Americans fucking hate Ringo.
Do you know why? Thomas the Tank Engine. He was the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine, so for a good sort of four generations of us, he was the voice of our childhood.
Ringo.
Anyway, I just had to get that out because it's a strange story, to say the least.
Oh, man.
Well,
Oh, man, I just scrolled down through that article.
Theories, right? That
so many conspiracy
become like a
theories.
pathological believer.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we can't do what a lot of people on our side do, which is like, we accept the fact that a certain group is behind a lot of stuff, but any other conspiracy is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. There's a golden mean, though. You got to look for smart evidence, and there's a lot of smart evidence that's it's sort of how I feel about. We're not going to go off on this tangent because I don't want to derail us, but like 9/11. I mean, there's a whole lot of mess that's thrown in your face. Messy conspiracies when there's some very good information out there for finding out what was behind the event. But it's just the water is just muddied with all these crazy theories. And it's almost like they're put out on purpose,
Yeah.
You got a bunch of crazy theories, and so the good evidence, lies fallow,
Well, of course the water.
Hey, Adam, can I trigger you real quick? Hey, can I trigger you guys real quick, Adam?
Do it.
Metallica
Oh, no.
was started when the bass player Cliff Burton convinced the rest of the band to relocate to right across the bay from the Presidio, home of the San Francisco MKUltra.
Oh, come on.
And then a sudden move to New Jersey,
So
and
many
then
people
fame.
like such a shitty band.
Oh,
Dude, it's so funny. No, just like listen to this story. This is the story. Now this is conspiracy, but whatever. I don't care. I'm reading this. Shut up.
Yeah, but why didn't you replace Cliff Burton when he died?
Sure, let me finish. So, of course,
did you say
Metallica
something
has
worse?
become a household name, but not before Cliff died on tour in an accident that could only happen in a movie. You see, apparently a card game took place with the winner getting his choice of bunk, and Cliff just happens to draw the ace of spades and wins. Then, sleeping on top of the bunk, the bus suddenly slides on ice that was first reported but then never reported to exist again. Either way, the bus tips and somehow Cliff is thrown through the small window of the bus at a rate faster than that of the bus tipping over, as he somehow beat the bus to the ground and was crushed by it. As often happens in these situations, the bus is lifted halfway and then dropped upon the body that had somehow flown through a window and beat the bus to the ground on road temperatures above freezing with no ice described by anyone but the driver. Rick Rubin produced a couple albums, and then they lead the industry's fight against Napster and win. Sounds completely normal to me.
Did the driver somehow commit suicide by shooting himself twice in the back of the head too?
I don't know. There's so many. I mean, that's an obvious conspiracy theory.
I thought Metallica. There's got to be something a little bit more than their music that got them as big as they did, right?
Because they're not as good as they are. They're not that good.
Affect Saint Anger, the best album.
Are we really going to do the Saint Anger as the best album?
I'm
Saint
sorry.
Anger is obviously the best album.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's just got such raw passion in it.
Let's move on. I shouldn't have said that.
It would be a great album.
God, Saint Anger being the best album. God damn you guys.
All I'm going to
Okay.
say is that I'm pretty sure one of the people that committed suicide with 6 shots in the back of the head must have said, "Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet."
Yeah, probably. But yeah, no, we can get into all kinds of deep dark conspiracy crazy shit with the different stuff that goes on in Hollywood and the music industry and whatever. And I'm pretty sure that a good percentage of it is true. And to what extent we don't know, but a percent.
At the very least, it's fun to speculate about.
Hell yeah, it's fun to
One
speculate
thing I'd
about.
like us to go on to is, we've talked about how some of the various things that MKUltra did, although we haven't gone into extensive detail. We've talked about one of the probable subjects, Ted Kaczynski. But one thing that not a people seem to understand that I'm pretty sure Musonius could tell us quite a bit about is just how many civilians this project was tested on.
Huh.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, it's over 80 universities and then several prisons. And then you've mentioned the brothels that were set up. And I think there was even a brothel set up in Vancouver because there's a Canadian phase to MKUltra.
Not just that. Wasn't there one entire American town where the water supplies were dosed with LSD?
I don't know about that one. I know mostly about the radiation testing, the nuclear testing.
Whoa, what?
Oh, like they release radioactive iodine from. See, like part of my family comes from Oak Ridge, so I know a lot of like the. I was interested in the nuclear testing on civilians that they did during the Cold War,
God.
and so I know a lot of those. So, I actually have family members that are on the transuranic registry, which means when you die of radiation, your body doesn't belong to you; it belongs to the government, right? And they usually give you something to bury, but they'll keep the rest in a freezer and they'll test it. If you die of, the transuranic metals are the ones that sit outside the periodic table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, all your heavy radioactive metals.
The ones on the 2 bottom rows that are outside.
Right. They're all radioactive and unstable. And if you die of any of those metals, your body goes on the transuranic registry. And I actually know the transuranic registry number of my family member. Most people don't. Because if you have the numbers, then you can study like what they do to the organs, right? So I've periodically checked, and they took his organs, out of the freezer back in the 90s and weighed them and played around with them and put them back in. But
Wow,
So what is this, like a long-term study of radiation exposure on organs, etc.?
on tissues, yeah, just to see how persistent it is, and like strontium like replaces calcium. in your bones.
Doesn't it continue irradiating even once it is inside your bones?
Yeah, it's shooting off neutrons the whole time. Yeah, it's a bone seeker.
Jesus, that's nasty.
Yeah. And there was a lot of this stuff. The MK Ultra is really about psychology and drugs, but they did radiological testing too on civilians unwittingly, and I know a lot of those. Because of the family. Yeah.
There were evidently. I'm having trouble finding it. Maybe that's because it's been expunged. But there was evidently a town. I've heard it was a town up northeast near the Canadian border. When it started to become discovered, they moved it. They started experimenting on a Canadian town instead, but it was just absolutely horrible stuff. The water supply was dosed with psychoactive drugs. I'm not 100% positive it was LSD, but the entire town was given low-grade psychoactive doses just to see what would happen to the people, what continuous exposure would do to the stuff. There were reports of people from the town being kidnapped, being sexually assaulted by CIA agents, physically assaulted, psychological torture. Basically, the entire town was like a case study into, what happens if the Russians start experimenting on our civilians. What can we expect?
Right, and you could see in the original mandate with MK Ultra, there was a desire to be able to make someone crazy for a day. Like a head of state, or so that he's discredited, or that the generals overthrow him, in a coup or something. Yeah. And they still do this stuff. Gangstalking is, the what you look up nowadays, because they use a lot of electronic means to do this stuff, and it's all civilian contractors that do it for the CIA.
I will say, I think that a lot of the gang stalking videos on YouTube, Joe Nobody is like, I keep seeing the same sort of car. I think that's probably just people being paranoid.
Right. There's a lot of pathological belief when you deal with conspiracy theories, but then there's the good stuff. You got to go find the good stuff. And how they had the sound cannon at the G Summit, back in Pittsburgh.
Tell us about it.
Well, the sound cannon was to hurt your ears so that it drives off protesters, but they also have like a ray gun that makes you feel like you're on fire when you're not.
Oh, it's the microwave based one. Essentially, it uses
like the heat cannon,
high intensity waves. Basically, it stimulates the outermost layer of skin and makes it feel like you're burning alive. But it doesn't actually penetrate deep enough to do any real damage or actually cook you.
Right, but that's a crowd control technology. The gang stalking technology is like, make someone think they're crazy and not have to use drugs. Do it from afar with some sort of device.
Right.
Point, at their house. That sort of thing.
Make them think they're hearing things.
And then there's
all
the old routines. Like he goes out, you rearrange furniture, he comes back, he thinks he's going crazy. Right. No one believes
gaslighting
him.
techniques.
Yeah, gaslighting techniques. That's basically what gang stalking is. It's gaslighting techniques.
What exactly is gaslighting? I've heard the term before.
It's another movie. It gets its name, like Manchurian Candidate. It gets its name from a movie called Gaslighting, where a woman's sister is trying to make her think that she's crazy by rearranging reality around her, and so that she's unreliable, right?
Oh, I think this was a play originally.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably a play.
It was an abusive husband who would do stuff to make his wife think that she was crazy. Like he would go and play with the lights, and then she'd be like, "Oh, the lights were flickering or whatever," and he's like, "What are you talking about? That's crazy." Right. Things that like Musonius said are intended to make you
disingenuously think you're crazy
belief and your sanity.
They're designed to make you isolate yourself mentally because, that's a scary thing when you suddenly begin to believe that you can't even trust your own mind. I mean, that is, if you actually think about it, that is an absolutely terrifying prospect.
Oh, I'm sorry, Johnny. We can't hear you. Can you...
Can you guys not hear me?
Now we can.
We can now. Did you have your mic muted or something?
No. Yeah. I didn't have my mic muted at all. That's weird.
Maybe we're being too loud.
I think you guys are just
being
so mean.
Fired up.
They're all fired up talking about MK Ultra and different.
At least we're fired up over the tinfoil and not fired up like last time where we were super rustled.
Yeah. Different kind of fired upness. Right on.
But yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt and shut it down. But yeah, sorry.
What?
What, Johnny?
I said I didn't mean to interrupt you guys' conversation and shut it down, but yeah,
It's all good.
No, I tried to interject a few minutes ago, and it like I couldn't. It was
years
weird.
Ago.
Hold on, we're getting an echo.
Oh God! Do we have an infiltrator?
Hello. Hello, Goyim.
That was.
Hello.
Hello.
I think everybody's good. It was just some sort of a ghost.
Weird.
It was. It was a ghost echo.
It was JIDF tapping in. Hi, JIDF.
It was a ghost echo.
Okay.
That's weird.
But I read about the 2 towns that were dosed with LSD years ago, but evidently every CIA agent that was involved with the entire thing mysteriously committed suicide.
Oh, that tends to happen.
What? Every single one?
Yep, there were like 10, 15 guys that just all mysteriously killed themselves.
Twilight Zone.
Holy shit, that's crazy, right?
Well, you notice MKUltra used mescaline and LSD, like psychedelics, psilocybin.
Yeah.
And I saw the list. Scopolamine. Do you guys know what that's for?
No.
It prevents you from forming long-term memories for the last 24 hours. So you can administer it, and the person will forget about the interrogation, but it has to be quick. You know,
Wasn't that the Russians had something known as a compound called SP-117 that was designed to lower the guard of somebody. It made them feel a little bit euphoric, made them trust people, and also made them forget the interrogation.
Wow.
Might have been a cocktail. I don't know. I don't know the Soviet technology. Our true serums are usually barbiturates, and then there's a technique to it, usually involving amphetamines, like Greyfield said. So,
yeah, the most commonly used one, at least in fiction and popular culture, was sodium pentothal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's also sodium amytal, and they've both changed their names now, but the old word is pentothal. Yeah, sodium pentothal, and
that's some crazy shit, guys.
Despite any Geneva Conventions or anything, I believe that we're still using these techniques.
Dude,
yeah, we would never stop.
Why would you stop if it was effective?
Yeah,
right.
I mean, the Geneva Convention and everything is just polite fictions.
Yeah.
Well, look at and they still do this with extradition and stuff. I mean, you don't have to take someone forever. Say you pick up someone, you can do the narco analysis, right? Find out what you want to know through interrogation, and then pump them full of scopolamine, cover them in scotch, and just throw them in the middle of a city
and throw them away, and then just run away like this. All right, I'm sorry.
Surprise.
Yeah. I miss that, man.
Oh, that's some evil shit right there. Just pour some scotch. You're like, pour some scotch on him and leave him in the alley. And I'm pretty sure people have woken up covered in scotch, like, they have no idea what's going on, but somehow, like, parts of their body hurt and their brain was fucked up and they had memories that they didn't remember having and things, but...
I think that's called going to a foam party.
Well, I know
sounds like a weekend for me.
The CIA still does this stuff. There was a banker in Switzerland. This is part of, in Snowden. Snowden talked about, why he supposedly turned, even though many people think he was always a Russian asset.
No.
But he, I don't know. But he talked about in Switzerland, when he was in Switzerland for the agency, like, a CIA agent was bragging about how he ruined this Swiss banker's life. Because he wouldn't play ball, because they wanted, because Switzerland's famous for the secrecy of its banking, right? He wouldn't play ball and, wouldn't be an asset for the CIA. So they arranged for, so he got him drunk and had him have a DUI, which hurt him with his bank, right? So, that was
hurt him with his job,
a blight on his character. So that's what happened. They have no compunction about destroying your career if you don't play ball with them, so...
Oh, yeah.
And like, destroying their career is on the light side of things they'll do.
Yeah,
well, definitely.
It shows you how amoral the agency is, and
definitely
play for keeps.
Well, shit, guys. That was.
What are we at?
We're getting into overtime now, niggas.
Okay, yeah, we need to probably wrap it up.
No, I mean
I
we
can see
can
the
go
sun.
for as long as we can go for as long, but I know you're on a different time zone, so shit, we can do MK Ultra again and get into some more stuff at a later date.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
But for
Yeah,
real
if you
though,
ever wanna talk about the nuclear
Musonius.
conspiracies, that'd be pretty good for that too.
Oh,
hold on.
What
What-
about space conspiracies?
No, but I know about Orion. What you were
What kind of
talking
space?
about.
What kind of conspiracies you know about?
Propulsion? Yes.
All right.
Hazzard, sheesh. What Musonius? What kind of conspiracies?
Like nuclear experimentation on people, because I have family from Oak Ridge, the birthplace of the atomic bomb.
Oh hell yeah, dude! Let's do that. We'll put a pin in that
I
one,
like
and we
it.
will have you on again.
Okay, sounds good. I had a good time.
Yeah. what
Thanks
is it,
for
put a
coming, dude.
bookmark in this conversation.
Yeah, put a
Yeah,
bookmark.
and everybody, thanks for joining us again. I'm Johnny Monoxide. We are the Paranormies with Adam Haidt, Hazzard, McRee, Greyfield, Stray, and this week Musonious Rufus. We're gonna take you out with a creepypasta. See you next time.
A man went to a hotel and walked up to the front desk to check in. The woman at the desk gave him his key and told him that on the way to his room, there was a door with no number that was locked, and no one was allowed in there. She explained that it was a storeroom, and that it was out of bounds. She reminded him of this several times before allowing him upstairs. So he followed the instructions of the woman at the front desk, going straight to his room and going to bed. However, the insistence of the woman had piqued his curiosity, so the next night, he walked down the hall to the door and tried the handle. Sure enough, it was locked. He bent down and looked through the wide keyhole. Cold air passed through it, chilling his eye. What he saw was a hotel bedroom, like his, and in the corner was a woman whose skin was incredibly pale. She was leaning her head against the wall, facing away from the door. He stared in confusion for a while. Was this a celebrity? The owner's daughter? He almost knocked on the door out of curiosity, but decided not to. As he was looking, the woman turned sharply and he jumped back from the door, hoping she would not suspect that he had been spying on her. He crept away from the door and walked back to his room. The next day, he returned to the door and looked through the wide keyhole. This time, all he saw was redness. He couldn't make anything out besides a distinct red color, unmoving. Perhaps the inhabitants of the room knew he was spying the night before, and had blocked the keyhole with something red. He felt embarrassed that he had made the woman so uncomfortable, and hoped she had not made a complaint with the woman on the front desk. At this point, he decided to consult her for more information. She sighed and said, "Did you look through the keyhole?" The man told her that he had, and she said, "Well, I might as well tell you the story of what happened in that room. A long time ago, a man murdered his wife in there, and we find that even now, whoever stays in there gets very uncomfortable. But these people are not ordinary. They were white all over, except for their eyes, which were red."